normally use a paddle, but I forgot my paddle's in the drawer. Hello, everybody. Jack Olmstead. I'm coming to you from Port Townsend, Washington. Oh, I got to put the camera on myself. This is Jack Olmstead. I'm coming to you from Port Townsend, Washington, and this is Mark Renneson. Where are you, Mark?
Right now I'm in Collingwood. I'm at home. I got back. I've been on the road a lot over the last few weeks, but I'm home for a bit before hitting the road again to New York State and then out to Arizona for the Nationals in November.
Ah, that's right. Are you playing in Nationals, or are you just going down there to watch?
I am. I always try to play in the big tournaments. So I usually play in the U.S. Open. I play in the Nationals. I like competing with those guys, and but it also gives me a chance to be there and shoot some video and talk to people and do some coaching too.
Right. So you're preparing for Nationals. What are you doing to prepare for the big tournament?
It's tough. I mean, I live in a small town where there's not a ton of high-level pickleball players. So, more than anything, it's just trying to sort of prepare your body. So when you get down there and you are playing at a high level, you're ready to go. So a little bit of fitness stuff, and when I can either travel myself to go get some good games in, or recruit people to come up here, then I try to do that.
Are you doing a lot of drilling? Are you going to the gym? How are you getting your body in shape?
Yeah, it's mostly spending time at the gym. I mean, in my pickleball world, I'd say about 15% is dedicated to playing and competing. The other 85% is to coaching. So, so I go there when I can, and I try to get a workout in here and there. But I've got family responsibilities too, and it's not always easy.
Right. Well, we're going to use that to segue right into our first match that we're going to analyze, which happened last month in Utah at the PPF Tournament of Champions. Do you see that on your screen?
I do. Yep.
Yeah, and this was the bronze medal match. Let me get this screen going. Okay, bronze medal match between Lucy Kovalova and Matt Wright, and Ansboury and Gabrielsen, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you just tell us what you see here? I have the ability to control the action. So Lucy's going to serve off here. Why don't you talk about her serve? I think you analyzed her serve in one of your videos, didn't you?
I've used Lucy a few times. I like Lucy a lot. We've worked together at the Pickleball Summit in Asheville, North Carolina, and we got to know each other pretty well. And yeah, Lucy has featured in a number of my videos, especially with her backhand slice. Yeah, Lucy's a solid player. She likes to use the power game. She's very tall, which for anyone is a huge advantage on the pickleball court. She's a solid all-round player who can come up with some really incredible stuff. So why don't I'm happy if we want to sort of play the film as we go forward, and things that stick out.
Okay. Well, can you talk about her serve before we go, since we've seen it about 5 times?
Yeah, Lucy's serve is it's pretty standard. It's nothing really fancy. She can hit it with decent speed. Technically, it's very good. She uses her body well. It's not just her arm that's hitting the ball. You'll notice that she's serving from the right-hand side of the court, but you'll be able to see here how close she is to the center line. And being close to the center line like that really makes it fairly easy that if she wants to, she could hit a good tee serve to her opponent's backhand. It also means that if that ball comes back to her on the right side, she's going to have almost a guaranteed forehand. So you see a lot of top players position themselves well so they can get the shot that they're hoping for next.
Okay. So we're just going to let this play, and then you can just tell us what you see here.
Yeah, so one of the nice things about showing any video of high-level players in slow motion is you can see it gives you time to actually watch their body, right? So typically viewers they'll follow the flight of the ball, which is understandable. But when you watch in slow motion, you have a chance to really watch what the players do. And when you get 4 good athletes like these ones, you'll be able to see sort of how light and athletic they are when they play. We hear a lot about the split step, that little hop that players make just before their opponents make contact with the ball. In slow motion, you can really see the number of those small steps that happen that, prepare players. Like that was a good example of Wes Gabrielsen. Really, we can go back and show that one again if you don't mind, Jack.
Sure. I can go back 5 seconds at a time. So
yeah, great. So
here we go.
This is a good example of Wes really covering a lot of territory at the net, poaching. This is an effective strategy. Wes is quite a bit taller than Sarah, so he can really reach far into the court and put away a third shot drop that isn't hit particularly well. So again, having that good athletic look, being prepared to move, creates the conditions where you're more likely to be able to poach effectively like that.
Okay, we got Sarah's serve right here. What do you see with Sarah's serve here?
Yeah, so remember how on the right-hand side, at the top of the screen, like her right-hand side, when Lucy was serving, I noted that she was standing very near the tee to make a tee serve quite easy. Well, look where Sarah's standing. Now she's on the left-hand side, and that's important. From where she is, it's going to be quite easy, and she was successful here, to get it out wide to Matt Wright's backhand. Again, where you stand on the court is no guarantee that you're going to get the ball to go to a certain place, but it improves the chances. The other thing that happens by Sarah, we can show that one more time, Jack. By Sarah standing a little further on the left as a right-handed player, she's almost guaranteed to get a forehand if that ball comes back to her. So unless Matt Wright hits a really extreme angle, because of where Sarah's standing, she's able to use her forehand, which is a strength for her and a strength for most players. So again, it's these little things that the pros do really well. An average player might not, notice it or not think anything's that notable, but where players stand when they serve and where they stand when they return at a high level, it's always by design, and it's always intended to give you the best chance at using your strength and avoiding your weaknesses.
Okay, we're getting into the next shot. And they're stacking here.
Yeah, so again, Sarah's looking to use her forehand as much as she can. Wes is solid. I mean, they're both solid from both sides, but Sarah prefers the left. Here's a good example of a good third shot drop, and you can tell it was going to be a good third shot drop even before Lucy hit it. The third shot drop is designed to force your opponents to hit up, and look how low Lucy has to get her paddle. Right, it's clear that she's going to make contact below net level, and that's really all you're looking for from a drop, is that you force your opponents to hit up so that they can't hit hard and keep the ball in play very easily. So,
now look at Wes's body, how he uses his legs. It's not really his arms, and then he's like coming up on the ball. It's really got a soft touch. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so a third shot drop or a fifth shot or seventh, any drop that you're trying to land in the kitchen, that ball has to have a little bit of an arc. This is the same for dinking. And one of the ways to get that arc is to use your legs, so almost sort of like a sitting and standing feeling. That's going to help the paddle to go from low to high, which is what needs to happen if you want to have that arc. So again, strong players, they use their bodies efficiently. By using his legs to go low to high, it means the paddle face can be relatively stable. And if it's more stable, then it's more likely to be a quality shot. So here's an example where Sarah gets in a bit of trouble. Lucy plays a deep volley. I'm guessing if you asked Sarah how she would handle that again, she probably would have preferred to take it out of the air. Because this ball is going to bounce almost behind her, that's a pretty weak position to be in. She actually was a little bit vulnerable to an Ernie shot there, because when the ball is so far behind her, it's going to be very hard for her to hit it back cross court. So that's a chance, even though it's on her backhand side, that Lucy could have come around to the side of the kitchen, maybe looking for an Ernie opportunity. Should be able to see it again here, I think. Okay, so that's the normal one.
You want me to go back?
Oh, I see. It's sort of progressing.
Yes.
Yeah, so, for most players of all caliber, we don't like to hit balls when they get behind you. And so being able to keep that ball out in front by playing it as a volley out of the air rather than letting it bounce.
We're talking about this shot right here.
Yeah, so right here when Lucy hits it and Sarah chooses to let it bounce.
Right there when she's letting it
So that
bounce.
choice to back up and let it bounce, I think is probably one that she would rather not have made. Because that's a really, like I said, that's a really weak position to hit from, and you're really limited what you can do with that ball. She sort of got out of trouble, so it was okay, but then the rest of the point, here's another example of a tall player like Matt Wright poaching across to put away a somewhat high ball with his forehand.
Well, would you say tall or just male when you're playing in
I would say tall.
Mix? Tall?
I would say tall, yeah. So
or testosterone. Testosterone and tall.
I mean, the taller you are, the longer your reach into the kitchen. And that reach into the kitchen is vital because that gives you the chance. That's the difference between being able to hit down on the ball, which means you can hit with speed, or having to hit up, which means you can't. And so even though Lucy herself is fairly tall, Matt's taller, can have that longer reach to get the ball when it's still up and then put it away. So that has a lot more to do with height than it does with gender.
Or aggressiveness. I think it's, the male aggressiveness here. They tend to want to take 2/3 of the court.
Yeah, but again, they don't take 2/3 of the court because they are more aggressive. There's very few examples where the women are taller than the guys. And when it comes to, the whole point of coming to the net is to give yourself a chance to get a high ball that you can put away. So you want someone, there's another good drop from Wes. You want someone who can pick that ball off when it's above net level rather than dropping below. So like, for example, if Lucy was playing with, say, Jack Oxler, right? Or me for that example, right? For that matter, someone who's not as tall as she is, I would be far less likely to, there's no real benefit for me going and taking that ball. There's a good example of Lucy. Like, she's not short of, can you post that one again?
Sure. Here, we'll get it from.
Yeah, Lucy's got no shortage of ability to hit high balls hard, right? And because that ball was really high that Sarah sent, Lucy would be able to get it at an appropriate height, and so there's no need for Matt to poach that ball.
Okay, here's Lucy's serve now, side out. Looks like all three of them, we haven't seen Matt serve, but they all tend to stand next to the tee when they serve.
So they'll stand next to the tee when they serve from the right side. So they have that serve to the tee available to them. And then like we saw from Sarah, when she was on the left side, she stood out wide because it gives her an easier serving lane out wide, which you want against most right-handed players, right? Typically you want to be able to expose the backhand with your serve. Why you might see a little bit of a difference here is because Matt is looking for anything over the middle to take himself. That's going to be on his forehand. So he's not standing as wide as he might. And there's that middle ball that they were hoping for, right? So again, where players stand when they serve at a high level, it's always deliberate. It's always by design. And it's them trying to maximize the chance that they get the ball they want coming back.
Here, Matt is trying to do a third shot. He looks like he did a pretty good job taking it to Sarah's backhand. Looks like they're hitting to Sarah's backhand a lot.
Well, yes and no, but imagine this. If they hit to Sarah's forehand right now, right, that would be towards the middle of the court.
Right.
That would be a ball that Wes would be able to poach.
Right.
So what Matt, there's an example, Wes poaching that one. So what Matt and Lucy are doing here, it has less to do with Sarah's backhand or forehand, and it has more to do with targeting one player over another, right? So, and here's Wes coming in again. If Sarah had been playing on the right-hand side of the court, if they were still targeting her, they would be targeting towards her forehand, because anything to her backhand is something that her partner would be able, in theory, to intercept. So it's more about targeting the player than it is about forehand versus backhand. Sarah's she's got a solid backhand.
You can see with these close-ups how they're using their bodies and their knees to get down to the ball and bring it up.
Yeah, so again, it's interesting to watch how stable the paddle face is when they hit. I'm actually working on a video on this right now.
Yeah, see, like there's Lucy. Look how low she is.
Yeah, and so watch when how little the paddle face moves, right? It's going to be stable all the way through contact here. And this is something that separates levels of player. Lower level players tend to be rather unstable with the paddle face. They use their wrist a lot. The paddle face doesn't stay constant. And that sets you up. It's more likely that you're going to have a bad angle or mishit it. So high level players are really good at having a stable wrist and a stable paddle face. And so instead of using the paddle, to go from low to high to get this ball up, they're able to use their legs to do it a bit more.
And that's how they are able to achieve a stable paddle.
Yeah, so having a stable paddle face starts with having a stable wrist, but you still need some other way to propel the paddle forward, and that's where you'd use the rest of your body to do it. So you'll be able to see that consistently, whether they're dinking or playing drops or whatever, that the paddle face is typically quite stable all the way through contact.
Yeah, you can see Sarah doing the same thing.
Yeah, the difference is when players start to accelerate. Like if you like here as an example, Matt putting away that ball, he's going to use his hand and his wrist to hit that ball because that's one way to generate speed. So it won't be quite as stable as a dink or a drop, right? But players who are trying to hit slow balls in a really precise way will be very stable with the wrist and with the paddle face through contact.
There was a timeout there. Get through the ads.
Okay, so it looks like it's 8-5. And again, you can see how far over. I mean, this is very common in whether it's mixed doubles or men's doubles or women's doubles, that good teams look to target someone on the other team. And that's typically the person who they believe is more likely to make an error or to be less likely to do damage, right? And so you see that targeting going on here where they're targeting Lucy at the top of the screen and they're targeting Sarah at the bottom. So the other players, Matt and Wes, they still have to be alert because that ball can come to them at any time. But they're still looking to get in on the action. Where if they do have a chance to put away a ball, they try to take it.
It looks like they're all served to their opponent's backhand.
Yeah, and I mean, that is a really, really valuable skill at lower levels, at the recreational level, because there's often huge disparities between players' forehand and backhand. I mean, in this case, all four of these players are solid off both sides, so it's not a huge liability for the return of serve. But for people watching at home who might be at the 2-5 or 3-0 or 3-5 or even 4-0 level, it's amazing how many free points you can get just by playing to a lot of opponents' backhands. And even if you don't get a free point, if they don't have solid backhands, they're much more likely to give you something desirable, right? Whether that's a high short return, whether they hit it to the stronger player on your court because they don't control the direction well. So it's really important for players to be able to learn to control the direction of their serve to put a little bit of pressure on the returner. Yeah, so again, yeah, you see the players, in this case, it was Wes. They were trying to get the ball to Sarah. Wes had a chance to come across and get it. And what happens when you're the stronger or the perceived stronger player on your team, if players are avoiding you, it actually puts a lot of pressure on you, because when that ball does eventually get to you, the feeling can often be, well, this is my only chance, right? I finally got to see that ball. I better do something with it. And we've already seen a few examples here where both Wes and Matt sometimes tried to do a little bit too much with the ball. There, Matt did just fine with it. But it does put pressure when you're the one who people are avoiding. When you do finally have that chance to hit it, the tendency is to really go for it, to almost treat it as an all or nothing situation, because you don't know when the next time you're going to see the ball is. It's really nice when they can show these angles on the court. It's like good to be able to see all 4 players from that perspective. And so these 4 players, I mean, these 2 teams, these are regular partners. They play together. Lucy and Matt have been playing together for a long time, and Wes and Sarah even longer. So I would venture to say that all 4 of these people are really comfortable knowing what their role is on the team. They know who they're going to be targeting most often. They know who's going to be hitting most of the balls. Yeah, so there's another example, right? Wes poached that ball and sort of, felt like this was his chance to put it away. This is a tight game at 8-9. Tried to do a little too much with the ball that wasn't quite high enough, and then, you get an unforced error like that. So that's pretty common when in matches where one person is being targeted, is that the other player often feels a pretty big weight on their shoulders when they do finally get to hit the ball, to really try to do something, often too much.
What do we got? We got ads here. Okay, just trying to get back to the game here. I know your time is limited. We'll just do this one.
Yeah, we can finish off this game. That's no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is.
Oh, look at that. Oh.
Yeah, and it looks like that was probably just long. I mean, that's sort of Lucy's game, right? She looks for chances to use a big forehand, and often it works against lower level players. This ball that lands a little bit out, against lower level players, they might be tempted to take a swipe at it. But someone with Sarah's experience, she knows an out ball when she sees one, and she's going to let that one go.
So can you talk about Matt's return here? He's using some backspin.
Yeah, so all 4 of these players have been hitting most of their returns with some backspin. They do this for 2 reasons. One is when you hit a ball with backspin, when compared to a ball with topspin or a ball with no spin, the bounce is relatively low. And that's important. When you're up at the net, you want your opponents to have to be hitting up. That makes it more likely that you're going to get a slow ball you can do something with. So a low slice return, a low backspin return, makes it more likely that someone's going to pop up a third shot. But there's another benefit as well. And because you get a bit of a skid, especially on these courts here, that ball skids off the return. It's just one more way to sort of complicate matters for the serving team, give them one more thing they have to worry about. If you hit a flat ball, so a ball without any spin, players are pretty accustomed to seeing those kinds of shots. But by hitting that ball with backspin, you're now just adding one more variable and making it a little bit more likely that the player hitting the third shot doesn't do as well as they would like. Yeah, so this is a pretty patient dinking rally. I mean, Sarah and Lucy have very different styles here. Sarah's tendency is to really hold her ground, to sort of take one position. You can see that was a good example there. Sarah really is quite a reacher at the net. So her tendency is to hold her ground, be in one position, and to sort of reach, whether it's left or right or forward for it. Whereas most of the other players, and Lucy's a good example here, rather than reaching for the ball, she's going to take those extra steps to set up exactly where she wants. So when you watch Sarah hit the ball, if you watch, say, 4 or 5 dinks in a row, you'll often see that she is in a different position for each of those, because sometimes she's reaching further, sometimes she's reaching not as far. Whereas if you watch someone like Lucy hit 5 dinks in a row, the setup will be much more consistent because she's not reaching for it. She's moving to be in a consistent spot. So they've got different approaches that way.
And it works for them.
Yeah, it works for them. It works for them. I think most people, the more that you're reaching for the ball, the harder it is to be precise. Think about other things you do that require precision. Sending a text, chopping vegetables. Most people don't do that reaching for, with their arms stretched out 4 feet away from them, right? Typically we do that from in close, because when things are in close to your body, it's usually a bit easier to control. So my tendency when I'm coaching is to suggest that people work hard to set up to have the ball in sort of a consistent, ideal position where they're not reaching, because they're more likely to be able to control it better. Someone like Sarah, who has such great hands, can sometimes get away with reaching a little bit more. So even if she's not always on balance, right, if she's stretching to her left or to her right, she relies on her good hands to be able to control the ball and put it back where she wants. So this match really has been sort of back and forth. It's 9-9. You could see Matt Wright a minute ago got really fired up. Yeah, and you could see for a brief moment there was a cross-court exchange between Sarah and Matt. That's a pattern that I think Matt and Lucy would be very happy to be in, but Sarah quickly got out of it. Looks like Matt's serve was a little bit, or dink was a little bit wide.
Yeah, it looks like something like that. It can go either way.
Yeah,
depends on how they're calling the lines.
I mean, you can just tell by his reaction here afterwards that it was a little tighter than he wanted. He knows he didn't have to hit such a great shot. It doesn't have to be that close to the line.
Yeah,
when a match gets at 9-9, or a game gets to 9-9, people can tighten up a little bit and try to be a little too close to the sidelines. So it looks like it must be 9-9-2 here. It's interesting. They seemed, as soon as things get happening up at the net, Sarah and Wes are really targeting Lucy. But on the return of serve, almost always they've been hitting that ball to Matt. And so what's probably going on here is that they're thinking, well, Matt's third shot drop may not be as effective today as Lucy's. Maybe he's made a few errors recently. They know that he likes to use the power game. So this will often happen is you might target one player in a particular context. Like here, they're targeting Lucy when up at the net. Whereas in a different context, they might target a different player. And I mean, this could even just be the case of if someone makes a few errors in a row. We saw Matt make that mistake where he hit the cross-court dink a bit too far. If you get a sense that someone's starting to crack a little bit under the pressure, or start to, one mistake might turn into 2 or 3, it might make sense to change up your game plan and to start to play more balls to that person.
You can see Lucy how she's kind of mixing it up, going from one to the other.
Yeah, well, and especially when she gets that high ball, right? So it's typically easier. She's on the right side hitting a forehand. When you hit hard, your paddle wants to come across your body on the forehand side. And so it's a little bit easier to put that fast ball cross court than it is down the line. Just that's how the angles work. So I think that's less about targeting Wes right here. I think it's more about kind of where the ball is on the court and where she is on the court. But you could see Wes is, I mean, one of the best defenders out there. So they're back in the point, and there it is again.
He's quick.
Yeah, he's quick. He's got good hands. He's solid off of both sides. So you're always taking a risk when you're trying to put away a ball by hitting it towards Wes. And again, you can see, right, so same thing. So Matt gets one ball, it's a bit too high. Sarah's drop is not good enough. Even on the backhand side, Wes, being as good a defender as he can, still can't get that ball back. So this is where it becomes important that players can learn to put away balls on both sides. Too many recreational players avoid their weaknesses, even in practice. But think about how much stronger Matt and Lucy are as a team when they can put away high backhand volleys as well as forehand volleys. This looks like game point here. And again, they're targeting Matt on the return of serve. And that looks like the first.
That's it.
Game right there. Yeah.
Okay. Here, let me get back. All right.
There you go. Well, that looks like a tight match. I actually don't know what the result was of that one. I don't know. I'm sure someone can go out and find it.
I'm going to put a link to the actual match in the description below so people can pick it up at that point and watch the entire match. And then they will know, because it was a great game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're four solid players that have played against each other a lot. So, yeah, I'd expect a pretty close one.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Mark, for spending your time with me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, Jack.
And don't go away after I end this. I'd like to talk to you offline.
Sure.
So thanks a lot, everybody. See you later. Bye.